If you're getting married for money, then you're really married to the money and not to each other. The result is going to be that even if you enjoy the marriage, because you're not married to each other, you're going to feel alone in the world. In a good marriage. And when I saw that happening in the last 5 years, it scared me. A difficult marriage is one in which the couple hate each other. That's what I was used to for the last 50 years. All of a sudden, good marriages, successful marriages, happy marriages, and you talk to the wife and she says, I'm all alone in the world. What happened? It's because they're happily married to something, not to each other. He likes things about her, she likes things about him, and they are married to those things. And it's not just money. Love is also a thing. And if you're married because you both love love, then you're both married to love and not to each other. So I'm talking to a husband, and he says, I love everything about my wife, which was puzzling because I had just spoken to his wife and she wants a divorce. So something's not adding up here. He loves everything about his wife, even if it were true, which I doubt, but even if it were true, he loves everything about his wife. So I said to him, do you love your wife? He says, I love everything about her. I said, do you love her? He says, what about her? I said, no, not about her, her. He says, I don't know what you're saying. If you take away all things, what's left? This is really scary. Intimacy means I don't need anything from you, I just need to be with you, or have you with me. That's called intimacy. If you asked your grandmother, what happens in the bedroom? Your grandmother would say, nothing. You say, come on, tell me, I'm old enough. Tell me what happens in the bedroom. Nothing. Grandmothers always tell the truth. What happens in a bedroom? No thing. A bedroom is a no thing zone. It's just them. It's just him and her. He is not a thing, she is not a thing, and it's just them. I know the vulgar expression, if you pardon my repeating it, they're making love. You go into a bedroom to make something? You want to know if it was good? There is no it, there's just us. That's called intimacy. As soon as you introduce something, it becomes a little bit like pornography. It's not personal anymore, it's about something, even if that thing is love. That's why intimacy has to be in the dark. Because if the light is on, you're going to see. And what do you see? Things. The eye can only see things. You're looking at each other, but you're not seeing each other. You're seeing something about each other. So whatever enjoyment there is from seeing, That's called pornography. You don't want that in your bedroom. So a story in Gemara about a woman who had incredible children, physically, spiritually, incredible children. So amazing that the sages came to ask the mother what the secret is. It's a different story from Kimchas, whose children were Kahanim Gedolim. They just had incredible kids. So the mother said, our secret is that we're never intimate before 1 o'clock in the morning. And they said, what is the meaning of 1 o'clock? She said, in our village, there is activity up until 1 o'clock. After 1 o'clock, there is no activity. There's no carriage, wagon driving past our window. There's no doors opening or closing. It's completely quiet, so there is no distraction. No thing interferes in our intimacy. So when there is no sound, when you see nothing, and when you say nothing, because you're not supposed to speak during intimacy, so you're saying nothing, hearing nothing, seeing nothing, what's left? Just us. That's intimacy. And when you experience that intimacy, even once, you become so bonded that to separate would be an amputation. So look at what's happened to marriage. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents, divorce was unheard of. They were married. And when you say this to younger people, they say, yeah, they were married, but were they happy? They weren't happy. In many instances, they weren't. So why didn't they get divorced? Because divorce was a stigma. That's not an answer. Why was divorce a stigma? Because it hardly ever happened. So why did it hardly ever happen? It's because they were married to each other. They could not imagine being without each other. So what did they argue about? They argued about things. They disagreed over everything. So they bickered and they argued and they disagreed and they screamed. So get divorced? Are you crazy? We have the exact opposite. We love everything about each other. We just don't know why we need each other. Just give me the money. Or just give me the love. I published a book back in 1991 on relationships. And the publisher gets to choose the title. So they asked me to suggest a number of titles, and they'll pick the one they think is best. Anyway, they picked the title, Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore? Which was good for sales and for promotion. It worked well. But that was not the one I preferred. It was back in 1991. I wanted the title to be, Shut Up, I Love You. Because at the heart of the problems that couples have is, I married you for love. I love you. All I want is your love. I didn't ask for you to have an opinion. I didn't ask for you to have a personality. Just love, okay? Stick to the love. So just shut up and let me love you. But no, you have to have opinions. You have to have needs. issues. I didn't marry you for that. So we're not married to each other. We're married to the things we like in each other. In the Mishnah, that's called Ava Hatfluya B'Davar. A love that is dependent on something. We just never realized that love itself can be that thing. If love is the thing, then you're not married to her, you're married to it. So I discovered very early, my first marriage counseling, advising, the man said, I've had it. I want a divorce. I don't need this. And being a yeshiva bacher with no experience whatsoever, I said to him, well, you don't need this, so get rid of this. Why are you divorcing her? Obviously, when he said this, he meant her. But she was not a person, she was a this. He thought he needed this, so he married her. Now he discovers, no, I don't need this. I certainly don't need her. I never married her. I married this. And I changed my mind about this. I want to go try some of that. And then I'll try some of those. She was alone in the world because they were not married to each other. So the guy says, I love everything about my wife. If you take everything away, what's left? I don't even know what you're saying. Who is she if you take all things away? So going back to the definition of marriage, it's not good for man to be alone, man and woman. Not good to be alone. So how do you stop being alone? What does it take to stop being alone? Get some money? You're still alone. Get some love? You're still alone. The only thing that changes from being alone to being not alone is if there is someone else other than you in your life. If there's another person other than you, then you're not alone. So the fact that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, that's perfect. Mars doesn't need anything from Venus. And Venus doesn't need anything from Mars. They just want each other. So a simple example would be, your husband is out of town. He's away for a while. And you miss him. And you say to somebody, I miss my husband. And that somebody says, well, what do you miss? So I miss my husband. Yeah, well, what about him do you miss? The question doesn't even make sense. My husband is away, so I miss him. What about him? Sad thing is that as soon as he walks in the door, it immediately becomes about something. Oh, good, you're back. Now you can take out the garbage. It becomes about something. Now you can take care of the kids. Now you can. But while he was away, she missed him, not something about him. A wife is away, the husband misses her. Not because he can't cook. He misses her. And we know this most intensely when, God forbid, you lose your spouse. Then you realize you didn't need anything. You needed her. You needed him. Things you can buy. You can hire people to do things. You don't have to marry them. Marriage is for intimacy. And intimacy means the ability that I have, which is God-given, to transcend myself and make room for another. And what makes her an other? That she doesn't agree with me. She has her needs, not mine. She has her personality, not mine. That's the part that is most important, the part that is not me. If everything she wants and says is exactly what I want and say, then we're clones. That means we're still alone. You stop being alone when you are married to someone who is not you. I don't know if you have to go so far as to be from another planet, but close. Men and women are, by definition, different universes, different planets. So, if you can imagine 2 drops of water just sitting on the table, right next to each other. Water flows. That's the nature of water. How come you have 2 separate drops of water? Why don't they flow into each other? What keeps them separate? What gives them their shape? The answer is surface tension. There's a certain pressure that the air puts on the drop of water that doesn't let it flow the way it naturally would. Surface tension. Now, what will it take to make those 2 drops become one? Very little. Touch them. Breathe on them. They will give up their surface tension and they will become one. That's what's supposed to happen between a husband and wife. It's not enough to be nice to each other. And that's why often marriage counseling doesn't work. The marriage counselor says, you do this and you do that. You speak like this and you speak like that. Use these words, not those words. Make a date night. Go out. That's not the problem. It's not the things they do or don't do. They won't give up their surface tension. Like, for example, a couple sit and complain about each other. And when they're finished, they turn to me and say, so who's right? So now you finally got to the source of your problem. You want to be right? Or you want to be married? Marriage is not a debate. It doesn't do the marriage any good if you're right. In business, we know that the customer is always right because it's so foolish to win an argument with a customer. You won the argument, you lost the customer. So you want to win an argument with your wife? At whose expense? Want to win an argument with your husband? And then what? It's not about winning arguments. It's not about money, and it's not about looks, and it's not about love. It's not about anything. Things get in the way. The surface tension is a thing that you want more than you want the marriage. I gotta be me. I did it my way. That's surface tension. prevents intimacy from happening. So, going back to the comedy of marriage, if you're going to be married, you have to have a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. Every husband should be thinking, what made me think I could be a good husband? And every wife should think, how presumptuous to think I could be a good wife. But this is the crucial point. See, if you want to be a good wife, you're going to have a very unhappy husband. If you want to be a good husband, you're going to make your wife miserable. Again, because you're looking for something. You're after something. You're trying to accomplish something. Often it's going to be at your wife's expense. I remember I was doing marriage counseling with this couple for many months. And one day the husband comes and says, I figured it out. I figured it out. I've got it all under control. I am going to be the best husband anyone has ever had. I turned to the wife and I said, oh yeah, you in trouble. Now you're in real trouble. He is going to be a good husband. And if you don't appreciate it, there's something wrong with you. But he's going to be a good husband whether you like it or not. So don't be a good husband. Don't be a good wife. Just like you shouldn't try to be a good Jew. You're trying to be a good Jew, you forget about the Eberstein. Actually, you get angry at the Eberstein. I'm such a good Jew. How come you don't appreciate it? Don't be a good Jew. Do a mitzvah. Don't be a good husband. Make your wife happy. What makes a wife happy? If you put aside all things and just welcome her into your world. Not about anything, just her. Really, it is the only relationship that has that. With your parents, you are not one. You're three. You're number three. They have each other. With your children, you're not one. Only with a spouse, and only through marriage. And marriage means intimacy. So here's the beautiful thing. No person should ever feel that they're mamish alone because Hashem is with them at all times. Not because he's nice, not because you deserve, not because you earned it. He is with you at all times because that's why he created you. He created you to have an intimate relationship with him. Because, you ready for this? When God said it is not good for man to be alone, he was talking about himself. And he was putting that part of himself into human nature by saying it is not good for man to be alone. And that's why marriage is the holiest thing in the world.